This is the Canon RF 1.4x extender. As you can see, it's just this tiny little piece here. It's not a lens. It's something you attach to particular compatible lenses, Canon lenses. And you can only attach this to RF lenses. Got to be very clear about that. You cannot attach this to any Canon EF lenses. But as you can see here from the photos, this will allow you to increase the focal length, quote, quote, of these lenses to get a bit closer to particular subjects. And as you can see from the photos, one of the main concerns is, will it reduce the image quality? And in my opinion, not that much. If it does at all, it's not some super significant amount. The biggest issue with this type of attachment has more to do with the fact that it increases your aperture. It gives you a larger aperture number, and therefore you're going to get less light into the lens. That's probably the biggest consideration you actually have to make with this type of extender, because what it means is that it's going to decrease your ability to work in lower light situations. And if you're working with a really long lens like the Canon RF 800mm, which is already at f11, then it's just going to make your aperture even larger and really cause more problems in low light situations. Something else I really want to point out is the fact that this lens is compatible with lenses such as the RF 100 to 400mm and the RF 800mm, as well as I believe the RF 600mm lens. However, it's not compatible with a lot of lenses, including one that a lot of people might think it would be compatible with, which is the RF 70 to 200, the 2.8 and f4 variants of that. This extender, as well as the 2x extender, are not compatible with the 70 to 200 lenses from the RF series, or the EF, obviously, because it's not compatible with any EF lenses. So that's something you really have to keep in mind. So don't buy this extender thinking you're going to pair it with your 70 to 200. Another downside is that taking this extender off your lens in the field can actually be kind of tricky, because the reality is you have three parts then. You have the lens, you have the extender, and you have your camera body, and you basically have to have a place to set something down or be comfortable setting it on the ground, because you can't really hold three things at once. So it's actually not very easy to swap on and off on the fly. So for me personally, once I put it on there, I feel a little bit committed to it, and it's one of those disadvantages because some people think it's going to be like a zoom where they can just take it on and off and get different focal lengths. But the reality is, in the field, it may not be quite so simple, and I just feel like you ought to know that before purchasing this. That said, if you're already taking photos of subjects with a particular lens and you know most of your subjects are a little too far away, this extender can be a really good way to get that little bit of extra reach without having to buy a completely different lens or add a bunch of extra size and weight, especially if you have something like the Canon RF 100 to 400, because this keeps it small and light. Whereas if you go and get an RF 800mm, you significantly increase the size and the weight over the 100 to 400. So this extender kind of keeps the 100 to 400's value proposition intact with keeping it a more lightweight package. So I think it's a good combo with that lens. It's a good combo with the 800 as well, although you may be bordering on too much focal length, because at that point it's kind of like it doesn't go super far, but for some things it can start to feel kind of like a telescope and be kind of hard to find things. As far as I know, this extender is also compatible with the Canon RF 100 to 500. However, I do not personally own that lens, so I can't really speak to it. But what I have heard is that it only allows you to use a certain part of the zoom range, like the longer half of the zoom range is all that you can use, and you can't fully retract the zoom once you've added the extender. So if you're in that boat, I would do a little bit of extra research to just be aware of any potential limitations with that lens. But as far as I know, it is technically compatible with this extender. So I do feel like this extender does have some asterisks next to it, but on the whole, I think it's actually pretty good at what it does, especially this 1.4x. I can't speak to the 2x. I only have the 1.4x, but I think it's pretty solid at giving you a little bit of extra reach while not adding a bunch of additional size or weight. Just be sure you're understanding its compatibility with your potential lenses as well as its limitations. And I hope this review was helpful for you.